What's up, guys? Joey here, back with another video, and today we're going to be talking about shoulders. Now, shoulders are one of the most defining part of any man's physique, right? They're the first thing that women look at and think, oh, he's kind of hot as fuck, or the first thing men look at and be like, oh, he's kind of intimidating, or just in general, when you see somebody with some type of good build, there is some level of shoulder development there, always, whether it's in the delts or whether it's in them having a genetically wide clavicle bone. So yeah, shoulders are relatively important. They're one of the things that can really make a physique, especially in bodybuilding. So obviously, it is very important for you to have well-developed shoulders if you care about the way your physique looks in general, right? And being somebody that has like genetically pretty good shoulders, I think I'm qualified to talk about this. I know a lot of it is genetics, but I do train my shoulders very hard and very well. So yeah, we're gonna get right into it. So the first exercise for getting good shoulders is just a heavy pressing movement. Now, there's a lot of effective heavy pressing movements that are working to getting you big shoulders, but what I personally have found to be very effective as of late is just doing a seated dumbbell shoulder press where the bench is cocked back one incline, so it's a lot more comfortable and you have a lot more stability. And instead of just kind of going through the motions, going fast and whatnot, taking a 3-second negative to really feel the burn makes a huge fucking difference. Now, I know the negative is very important on any exercise, but some exercises, really slowing the negative down feels like a huge difference. Like hamstring curls, for example, I don't really feel too much of a difference when I slow the negative down. But on these dumbbell shoulder presses, when I do, there's a huge difference, and it just feels great in general. And you can generally do this in, I'd say, the 4 to 10 rep range. I think when it comes to the heavy pressing movements, especially for shoulders, just having something that you can do relatively heavy and not insanely high volume is very beneficial, especially when you consider the other exercises in this video that are generally taken with a higher rep approach. You don't really need a crazy amount of volume with this. You just need 3 to 4 sets of a good heavy press with very high intensity. And for improving or progression over time, started a weight that I can do for 4 reps, then I'll stay on it until I can do 10 reps on it, right? Whether I need to do this with a spotter or I get this done myself, right? Just progress over time. Try to beat what you did last time. In the grand scheme of things, just generally improve on the lift and you will see amazing progress. You'll hit all 3 of your delts, but this is mostly a front delt movement. Moving on to some more front delts is front raises. A lot of people think it's redundant to have a front raise and a pressing movement in your exercise because your front delts are hit very well. And this is not to offend anyone, but I've rarely ever see anybody with actual good, real developed shoulders say that. I have very insane shoulder genetics, as you can see, and this shit is only pulled halfway up. So if I was to overdo something in my shoulders, you would certainly see it by overdevelopment, and it's not the case. Having a heavy press and a fly are both mandatory. The heavy press is going to hit a mix of all 3 heads while you're pressing, but a front raise is more of a lateral plane exercise where you're going to be raised. There are 2 different types of stimuluses, and now for some people they may not both be necessary, but the average person I do think should be doing both of these. Now, a variation that I like in particular for front raises is the rope version. With the rope version, you can just walk out, stand still, and because of the way the rope is set, your body's not going to be shaking when you raise the rope up, just like with the dumbbells, right? Because with the dumbbells, you'll find a lot of instability and it'll kind of take away from what you can focus on in the movement. But when you change it to the rope variation, your whole body is stable and you can really feel it on everything. In addition to that, the rope variation does allow you to slow your negative down. So if you want to add some extra intensity to the end of your sets, or you want to do all of your reps with slow negatives, that is a plus. And the burn is just amazing. I would say the burn is like slightly better than the dumbbell variation, which the burn doesn't matter too much, but the burn, like in the pump, does have some impact on muscle growth. All in all, that's extra nonsense. I just prefer the rope variation. I typically do this for 12 to 20 reps. I'll just pick a weight that I can do for like 12, stick on it until I can do 20. Now, with these lateral plane exercises, which is pretty much the rest of the exercises for the video, it will take a pretty long time to progress on them, so don't rush it. Just go in, try your best, give your best effort, try to progress in the long run, eat enough, fuel your body, and you will see progress in your delts. If you go from like a 20-pound lateral raise to a 25-pound lateral raise, that was essentially a 25% increase. So you made a lot of progress. So when it comes to these lateral plane exercises, don't rush the process. Just go through the motions, give it your all, and you will see good progress. Now we're going to be moving on to the medial delt. And it's really easy. This is very self-explanatory. Everybody knows. You just find a lateral raise. It does not matter which lateral raise you do. As long as you do a good lateral raise with intensity, you will be fine. Shoulders are a muscle that can recover faster, and due to their androgen receptor density, they can often respond pretty well to proper training or just training intensity in general. So you don't honestly need the most fancy exercise. If you want to take something more optimal, go ahead. But if you want to opt for something basic like dumbbell lateral raises, that works too. But an optimal variation that a lot of people who tend to prefer and fancy these days is the standing cable variation. You kind of hold on to the pole, stand, get it with your other hand, take a slight lean, and you raise outward. And the contraction is amazing, the stretch is amazing, the tension is good all the way through. It just may be hard to move up on weight in this or just do heavy weight in general, but that's not the point with these lateral exercises. The point is to really bias the delt without worrying too much about weight. You'll see improvements over time if you just stay consistent. But yeah, that's a variation most people fancy. Sometimes I do it with a plate when I can't find any dumbbells. Sometimes I just do the regular dumbbell lateral raise. And sometimes I do the machine one, which is another variation that I really like because the contraction feels good. And I can really feel it a lot deeper in my lateral delts than I can do like a dumbbell lateral raise. So yeah, just find a lateral raise variation that you will enjoy because you'll train it harder, stay consistent, and progress over time, and you will see growth. Generally, it's the same thing with the front raises. A 12 to 20 rep range so you can prevent other muscles from taking over goes a very long way. And the same general approach for progression is here too. You start at something you can do for 12, stick with it until you can do it for 20, and then find another weight that you can only do for 12 and repeat the process. Now, when it comes to rear delts, there is a bit of, let's say, difficulty and controversy. First and foremost, if you really properly hit your back, and I'm not talking about just, oh yeah, I'm hitting it good, like the average person who does. Even me, I hit it good, but I wouldn't say hit it amazing. If you learn how to really hit your back amazing, like whenever you do a row, really squeeze that shit as hard as possible. Like if you can get like an experienced bodybuilder to train back with you one day, do it, because you'll really see how the fuck your back is supposed to work. When you properly train your back, your rear delts are cluster fucked and they really don't need a whole lot of direct work. The main area where people run into problems with rear delts is that a really huge chunk of your rear delts is supposed to come from your back training, but it's very hard to really get that back training down. In general, you generally want to, however you want to do it, whether you want to do it flared to hit your upper back or like this to hit your lats, whenever you contract, squeeze your back as hard as can. I'm not talking about just a really good squeeze, but literally as far back and as hard as you can. Take your exercises to failure with intensity, and you will see insane growth in your rear delts. But an exercise to directly hit them and complement this proper back training is something like a cable fly or a reverse pec deck or a bent over fly. Now, people typically have a lot of problems feeling the bent over fly, so I'm not going to recommend that one. But the two exercises that did work in terms of like being able to feel it and progress were the bent over fly and the cable fly. Not the bent over fly, but the reverse pec deck. The reverse pec deck is very simple. You just sit, set it up, go back, and focus on actively squeezing and flexing your shoulder once you get this to parallel. Like once you get your wrists paralleled with your shoulders, squeeze your rear delt and you will feel it. The cable rear delt fly is probably the best variation. Like some guy came up and asked me, hey, how do I hit the back of my shoulders because it's really hard? I told him to do the rear delt cable fly, and he did it, and he was like, bueno, because, you know, he didn't speak much English, or he spoke English, but he was like Spanish, but that's besides the point. The reverse cable flies, they're very good. You will feel it in your shoulder. There's tension all the way through, and they're just an amazing exercise. Same thing with this 12 to 20 rep range. Really take your time focusing on the form, like more so on the rear delts than anything, because they're typically the most underdeveloped muscle out of all the delts. Check your ego, really focus on getting the form right that first 2 months, getting an insane contraction, and then you can really nail that training intensity. Trying to go up on weight whenever you can, right? Because it will be slow since this is a lateral plane exercise. But yeah, generally, it's not that hard. And once again, the same progression protocol. After you get past the initial learning curve of just hitting rear delts, start at something you can hit for 12 reps, stick with it until you can do 20 and go up. Now that I've pretty much gave you a simple guide on exercises that you need to do, those are the only 3/4 exercises that you need. Here are just some other general things. To elaborate, on your flying movements, keep them in that higher rep range. Exercises like raises, your lateral raises, your rear delt flies, when you start to go heavy to the point where you can do below 12 reps or below 8 reps with them, what will happen is your traps will take over and it'll kind of take away from your shoulders. And this is not a bad thing, but when you want to isolate a muscle like the shoulders that is incredibly important for making your physique pop, we're going to try to keep this as strict as possible. So in order to achieve that, keep the reps on your flying movements high. They are meant to be higher rep movements where you just get a fuck ton of blood in the shoulder with a nice solid controlled tempo. You really don't want your traps taking over this because you're going to have your own trap exercises. You do not need your traps taking over. An additional tip is to have more incline pressing in your routine. I'm like very heavy incline enthusiast. I don't really do any type of flat pressing anymore. Because incline press, one, it's safer on your shoulders. So the less injuries you have, the less time you're spent out of the gym, the more time spent in the gym, meaning the more time you spend actually grinding, breaking down muscles, able to grow and whatnot. But also it's just inconsequential extra volume for your shoulders. As long as you don't overtrain the fuck out of your chest or you don't overdo your sets of incline pressing, it will add something to your shoulders. It'll also make your front delt a lot stronger, so you're able to effectively progress shoulder press even better, and progressive overload will always help you grow more muscle. That's one of the main principles. So it just has a bunch of positive effects on your shoulders in general. And though your incline presses is mainly for your front delts, it will actually hit just a little bit of your lateral delt as well and some rear delt. But yeah, trying to have more incline pressing as just an inconsequential way to get some extra like shoulder work in there is very smart as well. And another little thing to note is I'm gonna elaborate a little more on something. Your shoulders are probably one of the fastest recovering muscles in your body simply due to their androgen receptor density. This is why when you call people out for steroids, the first thing you look at is their shoulders. Because of this androgen receptor density, your shoulders will grow the fastest in response to increased hormones. So when somebody has shoulders that are so proportionally big that it kind of dwarfs the rest of their physique, that's when you can typically tell that they're on roids. So moving on with this information, what does this tell us? The shoulders can probably take a little bit more intensity and volume. So don't be afraid to implement a lot of intensity techniques or even spam shoulders. Like a lot of people will have an approach where for whatever lagging delt they have, they'll do like whatever fly movement to hit that lagging delt. They'll do it every other day, and I've seen it work very well. Higher frequency goes well for every single muscle. There are studies to prove this, but especially for shoulders as something that can recover fast and can actually benefit from this, it is not a bad idea. Just pick whatever delt that you're lagging on the most or you want to see the most progress. A lot of people want to see most progress in their lateral delt. I might try to do this with my rear delt, right? Do it every other day, maybe 3 sets, because you're doing 2 to 3 sets every other day so you don't overdo it, and you will probably see amazing gains. In addition to that, the intensity techniques. Don't be afraid to add drop sets or have someone like help you push the dumbbell up when you're doing lateral raises, or like very smart and controlled partial reps. Do the partial reps in such a way to where your traps are not going to take over, and just finding ways to really clusterfuck your shoulders. You do not have to go easy on your shoulders. You can really clusterfuck them in the training because they can handle it and they will be able to recover. So take advantage of your shoulders' ability to recover and just get stronger and use it to progress and get bigger shoulders. All in all, no, getting shoulders is not that hard. You just need proper, pretty simple but effective exercise selection that you will train intensely and progress over time. Take advantage of the fact that your shoulders can recover properly. Learn how to properly hit the other muscles that also hit your shoulders, so your presses and your back movements, and you will get a lot of shoulder growth from that as well. And don't be afraid, like I said, to really cluster fuck them because of how fast they can recover. Getting well-developed shoulders is not a hard thing. If you have bad genetics for them, hey, you have bad genetics for them. But you can generally improve them without an insane amount of difficulty if you just do it right. Getting shoulders, just consistently, train hard, exercise selection, you got it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know what videos you guys want to see next, and I'm out.